You're listening to SM Media, the home of exclusive West of Scotland Football League content. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media West of Scotland Football Show. I'm Scott Pike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. I'm delighted to welcome this week's special guest. It's a pleasure to welcome onto the show the manager of Yoker Athletic, Gordon Robertson. Gordon, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining me.
No problem, Scott. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you on. It must always be nice to receive when you receive an invitation. You must hope that your team wins when you're going to come on this show, and a fairly good result this weekend.
Well, if it had been the previous week, I'd have been suicidal. We lost a home match to Wishaw 3-2 after being on a good run. So, Friday night was good. We played Perthshire. I think if they had won, they would have gone top of the league. Yeah. So to end up winning would have been enough, but to win 6-1, to do it with a bit of style, was great. It was a really good performance. I was really pleased with it. But our best performance of the season by far. The second half we were good.
Yeah, 6 different goal scorers as well. We'll kind of get into it in a bit more detail when we cover the kind of second division. But as I say, that result obviously takes us to 6th in the table. It's been a funny kind of a season for Yoker. I know, like, obviously last season after getting to the cup final and a really good season in the league, like, it was a lot of players had left, and it was a lot of people wondering how was the rebuild going to go. But you've certainly kind of showed a really good season so far. And what was it like kind of last season after that amazing run in the final, and get building from that?
Yeah, well, it was a great end to the season. Not only getting to the Scottish Cup final, but getting the effective promotion in the conference system was, we went in a really good run. We lost one game, I think. We lost one game to Petershill, and then won most of the rest of the games. I think there was one draw, and we made it. We got over the line. So we, at one stage it didn't look as if we'd make the second division and we would have been in the third division. So that was, maybe just as big an achievement as getting to the Scottish Cup final. So, but that was a magic day for the club, and the first time they had reached the Scottish Junior Cup final since the 1930s. So it was a big deal, and but I knew after the semi-final that I was going to struggle to keep a lot of the guys, because you're in in non-league football, it's just the biggest single match there is. The Scottish Junior Cup final, still live on TV, huge profile, the biggest crowd, all that kind of stuff. So I feared the worst, and one of the bad things that you have to deal with is that because the Junior Cup final is quite late in the calendar, you've got players hanging off, keeping their options open for good reasons, because they're getting a bit of attention. But you're then not knowing what your squad's going to be like, maybe just 2 or 3 weeks before pre-season starts. So we lost about half the team, and the key players, not just good players, but key characters in the team. We lost all that. So it was a bit of a sore one, and we just, managers have to deal with that. You just have to go on with it. But at the start of the season, one of the players we kept, our centre forward, Scott Gallagher, who had a great run in at the end of last season. He did his ACL in a pre-season friendly against Stirling Uni. So that was him out. That's him out for the season. And we've had 3 season-long injuries as well to key players. Our goalkeeper, Scott, who played in the final, just in November, broke his arm, and that's him out for the whole season. So we've had things to deal with. Loads of managers have similar tales of woe, I'm sure. But we are... Our rebuild that was needed after the Scottish Cup final was a bit of a challenge, and that's largely where the inconsistencies come from. In the first half of the season, we were good in some games, awful in other games, and trying to get that consistency was a real challenge. I'm not saying we're quite there yet, but we certainly, the second half of the season, we looked more like a team that you could trust to get certain results, whereas in the first part of the season, sometimes just didn't know what you were going to get, and that was down to, the kind of huge turnover that we had. Yeah,
and you say that obviously, like the turnover in players, a lot of players getting injured as well. Like, have you been surprised with the kind of position you're in, like sitting in sixth place? And as we say every week in this show, like the way the conference have worked, it's made all the leagues extremely competitive. How you kind of thought of the season so far and the position you're in?
Well, it is really, really competitive. I think even like last week you saw, Ashfield who are a very good team, going to Glasgow United, who've struggled a bit this season, but Glasgow United are always in games. I mean, they're losing by the odd goal, and maybe, so they come back and get a draw, and that's probably symbolic of the whole season, where the teams at the top can lose to teams at the bottom, and everyone's capable of beating everyone else. I mean, our result on Friday against Glasgow Perth is an unusual result for our league. It's they're usually just 1 or 2 goals in it. You don't get too many teams winning by a large margin. So it's a hugely competitive league. I think it's a really good league. I think there's some cracking players in it, some really good teams, and I have to say though, Scott, we are disappointed that we're where we are, in the sense that we had high expectations going into the season, despite having lost so many players and having to deal with all those things, that we wanted to be in a better position. If we're going to achieve anything this season in terms of maybe sneaking into a promotion spot, we need other teams to go through bad spells, and we can't afford any more of that. We can't afford any more inconsistency. So we've got to win certain head-to-heads. We've got, we're in a position where our destiny is not really in our hands in terms of, maybe making a challenge for promotion, because teams have got games in hand over us, and all that kind of stuff. So it's been an okay season considering all the things we've had to deal with, but there is a little bit of frustration. We feel it could have been a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into obviously the kind of the result on Saturday and kind of other games in the second division later on. We'll start with the Cup. I'm just going to run through the results, and obviously you can give me your thoughts and kind of your takeaways for the results over the weekend. The second round, 4-0, Drumchapel 1, St Roch 6, BSC Glasgow 2. That was in the second round. They will play each other, I believe, in the third round, and I think the winner of them will play another team. We'll find out that in a couple of minutes. I'll have a look at the draw. Friday night, Kilwinning in the third round beat St Cadoc's 4-3 in penalties after a 3-3 draw. Auchinleck 0, Glenafton 0, Talbot won that game 3-0 in penalties. Clydebank 2, Cumbernauld 1, Neilston 1, Rossvale 1. Neilston won that 12-11 in penalties. Craigmark beat Rutherglen 3-2 away from home, and Gartcairn beat Shotts 2-1 away from home in an all First Division tie. There's a lot of games to take. There's a lot of takeaways for the games. Obviously, a few penalty shootouts in there. A big weekend. Only a goal or draws in the third round games. They're very tight.
Well, this is it. I mean, you look right through the leagues, even teams that you think may be struggling. And I went to see Whitlets and Lesmehego a few weeks ago in a cup, and it was a tremendous game. Lesmehego were really good, Whitlets were really good. Then you look at Whitlets, how they're struggling, and you think, this is, there are very few teams that you could say that the games are gimmies. There are very few teams like that in the top 2 or 3 leagues. You think that most teams can give other teams a run for their money and stay in the game, even if they ultimately don't get there. So it's no surprise to me that there's so many close games. No surprise that so many went to penalties. There are a lot of good teams lower down in the divisions that are well organised. They've got good coaches and managers that set them up well and can make it difficult for maybe more kind of illustrious opponents. And then that's only good for the game, by the way. I think you don't want to see teams taking spankings and all that. You want cup games to mean something. You want the success in the cup to mean something. That is that you've had to battle hard and get through it rather than just a procession. So I think it's good. It's a good reflection on the level of football that we've got throughout the divisions, and there's not, as I said, the teams taking doings there. So it was a really interesting weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. The draw has been made for the quarterfinals, I've been told. I do not know who's playing who. Once we find out, we'll probably be finding out on Tuesday morning. We'll obviously retweet. We'll share it whenever we know. I know that Auchinleck play Gartcairn. That's the only tie I'm aware of. But again, we'll find out, and we'll share it on our channels as well. Let's move into the Premier Division, and the place to start. The top two clashed. Beath 2, Darvel 0. Beath extend the lead at the top to 7 points. Andy Monk and Carlo Monti with the goals. Beath, I've spoke to a few people at Beath, and they've said they've denied like that they're in a title challenge. They're taking a game at a time. This was a big game for them in terms of that, and they can't deny now they're certainly in with a chance of winning this title, and beating your main kind of rivals at home certainly shows that.
I think they look a really good team, Scott. I saw them early in the season. They beat Pollock 3-2 at Newlandsfield, and I was through there, and I think they were 3-0 up at one stage. But in the first hour, they blew Pollock away. They were at it. They had good quality in their team. They pressed Pollock with an energy and a discipline that was really, really impressive. They were well organised, well motivated, and just at it. That was it. And I was really impressed with it. It's no surprise to me that they've done well this season. I wouldn't say that I thought then that they'd be league contenders, because it's early in the season, but they were good. And I saw the highlights for their game against Darvel. They've got match winners in their team, and Monty's goal, he's always the quality. And Monty's goal was a screamer. But again, you can see bits of their game when you think, no, they've got something about them. They've got something about them, and it is a bit of desire to go and do well, to build on what they've got. So they are real contenders. Now, there's still a long way to go. And Talbot have got games in hand, and what they can do. We know Darvel have got quality, and every team has their wee spells, their wee dips. Clybanker well placed, and Pollock have got smashing players and had a good result on Saturday. So it's too early to say, who's favourite or whatever. But Beath are definitely in the mix. They are definitely in the mix. And I'll tell you what as well, see if they actually do manage to see it through and win the title. That's one of the best achievements at our level of football in years and years and years. It would be something else, considering the quality at the top end of that league. If Chris Strain manages to lead that team to a title, then that's a big deal. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we speak a lot about the job Chris has done at Beath as well, and there's a lot like Carlo coming in. Josh Fowler's been magnificent this season. Daniel O'Neill at the back in particular has had a marvellous season so far. On the other hand, like Darvel, I know we talk a lot about the squad depth and obviously the run they had in the cup, the results they had. Do you think this is obviously they've lost their last 2 games and drew the game before? Do you think that they are in the middle of just a wee blip? How does Mick recover from that? Because they will be gutted after that Scottish Cup exit, and from there you've just results maybe haven't gone their way. How does Mick get them back on track? Because they still have the squad to be in a title.
Yeah, they do. I think it's just a time for calm heads. That's all he has to do, is just to have a chat with his players, and they regroup and they look, and there was such a high in beating Aberdeen. I mean, that was an incredible achievement. Anything after that is going to seem like an anticlimax. And then obviously they've taken a sore one against Falkirk, and it's when you've been in a situation where you've achieved great highs, that everything after it can seem just a little bit, just not the same. And you need to bring a bit of focus to the group. And you've got to remember that every team has their moments when things don't go well, and it is just really about cool heads and focusing on what they do. I mean, they're a really good team. They knock the ball about well. They've got some smashing players. There's no reason why they can't just, as I said, regroup and get back at it. There's enough quality there. So that's what it is. It's just a time for cool heads there. And I'm sure they'll rally and they'll make a very interesting go of the running.
Yeah, brilliant result for Pollock as well, a 3-0 home win over Cumnock. Duff, Gordon, Nelson with the goals there. As we said this a couple of weeks ago, Pollock, the kind of main thing Pollock can do is just try and get one away. They had a difficult result during the week. I don't know if you've seen the red card against Troon. That's a tough result. Troon we'll touch on in a wee minute. But again, Pollock, when you go to Troon in a midweek and lose, the main thing is get back to winning ways at home, and that's exactly what they did.
He did the good goals as well. I saw the highlights. Duff's goal was very good. They've got cracking players, and I think he mixed up a wee bit, didn't he, with his team selection? So that's I think a good signal from a manager to put out there that guys have to earn their places, and it's not their places aren't a given. So that's a tremendous result. A good emphatic win, with a clean sheet in the back of a disappointment is tells you maybe something about the character of the players that he's brought in, that they want to try and put it right. So that's a good result, and Pollock probably just have to find that bit of consistency that's maybe they've lacked. Even when Murdy was there, some great results and then some really disappointing ones. It's something that's a challenge for every manager, but certainly a club like Pollock, the profile they've got, that's probably the biggest. That'll be Max's biggest achievement if he can get that consistency of results where there's the blips are kind of ironed out a wee bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We did have a managerial departure in the Premier Division this weekend as well. Atherley's manager Craig Palmer has now been dismissed after his side lost 2-1 at home to Troon. They've been in a difficult run, Atherley as well. Again, Craig's been on the show. Really like Craig as a guy. I think he was in a difficult position as well, obviously with Andy leaving at the start of the season, kind of taking the job, with a kind of up and down start. Some good results in there as well, but it's just been a difficult spell for him.
Well, it's such an unforgiving league as well. I mean, I did, you could see the way the results are going, and you really, anybody watching that top league knew that Saturday was a big game for Atherley, because I think would they have gone level with Troon? I can't remember if they did, if they'd won.
Yeah.
So there was a kind of classic 6-pointer, but for what Atherley were incredible last season, and they're not in a desperate position. They're just, they're obviously in a bad run, and again, it's back to those times you need players, you need, backroom team, you need boards and committees to just have cool heads when there are moments like this and understand. Look, these are a lot of these players have done really well at this level, and have a bit of faith in them, and just. Everybody just calm down and just regroup and think what do we need to do here, and not to panic too much when things don't go your way. So it's a shame. You never like to see managers going, and because everybody invests so much time in it, so much emotion. It's I always feel sad when I see anyone that's done so well just feeling as if they can't take it any further. So I wish him all the best, and hopefully Atherley can turn it around as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into Troon, obviously. A big 2-1 victory, obviously following on from the result against Pollock midweek. David Simon a goal, obviously joining in loan from Darvel, and Ben Black with a goal. Troon, they've picked up the past week or so. They were another team that were maybe just struggling for a bit of consistency. David Simon, obviously coming back off an injury, it's a perfect opportunity for him to get some game time. And it's a good place to go, Troon, because they're a real good team that kind of maybe a defensive teams, maybe the right word, like they keep the ball well, they're hard to break down, and David Simon, he's got goals in his game. He's a good addition to that Troon side.
It's a really good addition. I think now with those 2 wins, they'll start to think, well, because there's all the spectre of relegation haunts, half at the bottom half of that table, and they'll start to look up the table. With those 2 wins, they'll start to think, well, we're less worried about that now. It's up to us just to the teams that they can catch above them, as opposed to looking over their shoulder. That's what those 2 wins mean. That's a massive 6 points in 2 games. So I think they'll be absolutely fine, and and as a good signing, bringing a bit of goals into a team that maybe don't score too many.
Yep, absolutely. Jamie McKellen's joined as well from Glenafton. Big signing for Largs, obviously the return of Will Sewell, who was obviously at Stenhousemuir, probably one of the top goal scorers in the league last season, coming back after his spell in the SPFL. And Largs won 4-0 at home to Petershill. I think Will come on as a sub. Scott Lewis with a double, McLeod and Ramsey, 4-0 win for Largs. Again, Largs just a similar team, just looking for a bit of consistency, but a massive result, and they've got their main man back, because I think Will was a massive addition to that team.
Well, I mean, in the first part of the season, I think Largs maybe struggled for goals, struggled to have that goal threat. They brought David Ramsey in, who's a good player, has done it at this level, and then bringing Will back there, that's a huge signing. But they're a good team. I think they were unlucky to lose to Clydebank the week before. I think they felt pretty bad that maybe they dominated the game but couldn't make the breakthrough, and then the Bankies did a number on them in the closing stages. So they're looking as if they're looking a pretty good team, and maybe at the early part of the season when some folk would have considered them to be one of the teams that could be threatened with relegation. But for Largs now, with the signings they've made, and just with you see, there are teams you look at and you think you expect them to do well, you expect them to compete, you don't get surprised when they get a good result. I think Largs fall into that category. They're a good team, and I know they've got a couple of players that were important to us last season. Ryan McCreath and David McGrath that are there. I think Dave's been out for an injury for a wee while, but good, honest guys that any dressing room would do well with having, and so they've got a good mix, a bit of quality and just good guys that want to do well. So I'm not surprised that Largs are now in. I think they might even be in the top half of the table now. They're not far away from it.
They're sitting in eighth.
Well, there you go. So I think Largs are in a pretty good place. And when you're in a good place, to sign somebody like Will, that will give everybody a lift at that club.
Yeah, absolutely. Big result for Rob Roy as well. A 2-1 home win over Hurlford, a double from Alan Woodhouse. And Cambuslang 1, Irvine Meadow 2. The Kerr brothers for Irvine Meadow both scored. Isaac and Louis both scored as they came from 1-0 down. Cambuslang took the lead through Grant Brennan. 2 big wins for Rob Roy and Irvine Meadow.
Cracking wins. I mean, Cambuslang have been doing not too bad recently, and so in Meadow with the change of manager, all that, sometimes you just don't know how that's going to go. So that's a great away win, tough place to go, all the usual things. Hurlford, I mean, their management team must be so frustrated because they are clearly one of the teams that can beat anybody in their day, and then they lose games that maybe you might not expect them to get. They're one of those teams that you wouldn't look at in your football coupon if they were allowed to have one, if they were allowed to bet on one, But you just like what you're going to get with Hurlford. It's incredible, and I saw them at the end of last season against Cowan in the cup final, and I thought they were just excellent. They were just dominant, and you think they're a good team. They've got good players, but then they seem to they seem to lose games where you're not expecting them to lose. It's an interesting couple of results, those.
Yep, absolutely. First division, I suppose the one place to start is at Benburb. Kilbarney are still top of the league, but they suffered a 6-3 loss away to Benburb. Lewis McTaggart with 4, Loveren and Doyle with the goals for Benburb. Kilbarney's goals came from McGinty, Ross McKenzie and James Marks. This result to me shows how unpredictable this league is. You would think Benburb and Kilbarney, tight game. I did not see 6-3 coming for Benburb.
Well, I gone up to watch Kilbarney against the Drum last week, and Kilbarney were 3-0 up at half time, and it was 3 going on 4 or 5. They were excellent all over the park. They were first to everything. Their shape was great. They had goal threats. They were stuck in. They got stuck into it. So no, they were really, really impressive. And although the last 10 minutes they got a bit slack and the Drum got a couple of goals back, but the last thing I expected was that result on the back of what they did against Drumchapel. So Kilbarney, they'll be really disappointed at that. And I think they took the lead in the game as well. So that's a poor result for Kilbarney on the back of what they did against Drumchapel, but an incredible result from Benburb. And they'll feel, because at the top of that table so tight, maybe everybody above Nielsen's got a chance, a promotion there. The Bens will be sitting there going, we can put a run together. We can definitely, get into that top 3. So it's a magic run in that division. It's one of the best, I think. Just in terms of keeping an eye on you would be, if we don't have a game on a Saturday, it's probably that division I'll be looking at to go to games. So that is an incredible result. So well done to the Bens for doing that, turning that around, and they probably needed that. If Kilbarney had won that game, that's one of those kind of 6-pointers. You would have found it hard to see the Bens catching Kilbarney. So in a fair play to them, a brilliant result, and obviously done with a bit of style.
Yeah, I know there's games in hand by a lot of these teams, but Kilbarney are obviously sitting top in 36 points, and Benburb are sitting in 29 in 6th place. There's 7 points between the top 6. Johnson obviously won 2-1 as well, beating Whitlets. Again, this league is so unpredictable, and Johnson and our team as well. Look, Jamie's done such a good job there.
He has. He's done a cracking job. I mean, and he's done it in a kind of, built from when he went in there, they were struggling, and you see they've just made progress every single year. They're just looking better, stronger, getting higher up every single year. So he's done a great job, and you see what it's done for their club, because any time you see them on YouTube or whatever, there's a cracky wee crowd there. They've got a wee group of the young guys all do the singing. There's a bit of energy that maybe that Johnson didn't have a few years ago. So he's done a great job, and they're in the mix. They're absolutely in the mix. You've got to look at, maybe most people would have thought Drumchapel St Cadoc's, Gap, Cairn, the clubs with maybe the bigger budgets, good players, all these things would have been almost a shoe-in for the top three, but it's in the balance. There are 3 or 4 other teams there that are either going to have a big say in it or could actually sneak into one of those places. So it's a brilliant league, and it's a credit to the teams that on the coattails of these kind of teams, maybe slightly bigger but significantly bigger budgets that they're in the mix. It really is well played.
Yeah, absolutely. Final game in the first division was Blantyre 2, Thornleywood 2. The big news come out of that was obviously the resignation of Jamie Nisbet and Chris Dolan from Thornleywood. It has just been announced. I was aware of this and I was keeping it until it was revealed. Jamie Nisbet and Chris Dolan will be going to Cumbernauld United, and I think they are very well deserving of a job like that. Jamie and Chris, and obviously John and Ian as well, the background team, they have done an amazing job at Thornleywood with a very limited budget, and they deserve a big opportunity like that. Massive job for them, and they're well deserving of it.
No, I was wondering what happened there because it seemed like an unusual, change in managership there. So, no, good luck to them at Cumbernauld, a good club as well, a good setup as well. So, I know, fair play to them, and it obviously creates maybe a wee opportunity for someone to get into Thornleywood and try and build on what they've done. There's some decent managers and coaches that'll maybe fancy that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into the second division. Obviously, we'll start on Friday night at Yoker 6, Glasgow Perthshire 1. 6 different goal scorers and a massive result. There can't be many complaints about that.
No, it was great. As I mentioned earlier, they could have gone top of the league, so we knew they were going to be up for it. We had the bad result against Wishaw, despite being on a pretty good run ourselves. So I thought at half time, one of the things I said to the players was like, look, this is a cracking game with 2 decent teams having a good go at each other, and it's the old cliche about in a 2-1 game is that the next goal is massive. If we get it, we've got a wee bit of a cushion. If they get it, then it's game on for them, and the momentum's maybe with them. But we tweaked things a wee bit at half time just to deal with. I thought we were letting them get back into it a wee bit too easy. And we had to sort that out, but we sorted that out. And then in the second half, I thought it was the best football we've played this season. The end product was there. We passed the ball well, we moved the ball well. Our shape was good, our energy was good, and I was absolutely delighted with it. It was a terrific win for us. It was a win that we absolutely needed, Scott, because I think because of our inconsistency, we do need teams to slip up if we are going to mount any sort of challenge, and I think if we'd have lost that game, then we would have just been hoping to consolidate, get a mid-table position and try and build for next season, which is fine. There's no harm in having a season like that, but now it just keeps the possibility that if we pick up 2 or 3 more wins that. And some teams slip up, and because of the competitive nature of this league, there is no doubt that teams are going to slip up. Some teams with games in hand, they're not going to win their games in hand. They're not going to push on. They're going to end up, especially teams up in cups. They're going to have that horror show at the end of the season when you're playing 2 games a week for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. You're going to have all that. So we had to win, I think, and we did. But the way we did it, the style in which we did it, was really, really pleasing. But again, what I know of our team is that we have had good performances early in the season and not backed it up. So the challenge for our guys is this Saturday that we have to back it up. And that's obviously easier said than done, but it certainly gave us a lift. I think because of the manner of and the style of the win.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into kind of some of the other games that took place in the second division. Renfrew went 5 points clear at the top. A hard-fought 2-1 win over Ardea, goals from Benton and Diver. Again, you've obviously seen Renfrew as well. They've been really impressive this season. They've obviously got a trophy in their belt as well. And again, that just they've now got a 5-point lead. Do you see them relinquishing that at the end of the season?
Well, and they were the team that got out of the traps fastest, I think, in our league. Them and Craigmark are the 2 best teams that we've played. Right. Renfrew beat us 3-2, and they scored a stoppage time goal. And we had a fairly depleted squad that night, but when I come off the park, I was saying to the players, I said, look, we've just played the best team, I think, in the league. They were solid all over the park. The goal threats, they looked as if they just that wee bit more about them. It's no surprise that they look as if they've steadied the ship a wee bit after a few weeks where maybe they were drawing a couple of games and they'd lost. I think they lost at home to Maryhill. Mm-hmm. So it's no surprise that. So fair play to them if that is the case. I mean, obviously, I'm hoping that it's not the case and they slip up a wee bit more. But no, they're a good outfit and they're worthy league leaders at this stage, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashfield were 3-0 up at half time. Bobby Barr with a double and Sheridan away to Glasgow United, and a remarkable comeback from Glasgow United to draw 3-3. Classic example of a game that will feel like a victory for one and a defeat for the other without actually being either.
It is a classic for this division as well. There you go. The team that's really toiling at the bottom of the league in terms of results, but usually staying in games. For just not quite getting there. To come back from 3-0 down when you're in that league position says something about the character of the guys at Glasgow United. That they didn't stop. But of course, Ashfield, they'll be desperately disappointed. Dropping 2 points in that manner isn't great. But that's the sort of thing I've been saying to our guys for weeks. That's the sort of league that we're in. These are the sort of things that happen. And I mean, for the teams that are vying for promotion or maybe hoping for slip ups, that was a cracking result. And Ashfield we had a good result up there against them, but they're a good team. They've got they knock the ball about well, and they've got goal threats, and it will be a setback for them. They'll definitely be disappointed with that.
Yeah, absolutely. St Anthony's were 2-0 up against Wishaw away from home. Mulaney and an own goal for them, but Wishaw again, they're on a wee bit of a good run. Obviously, we beat ourselves at home last week. They clawed it back to 2-2. Harry Kemp with another goal. He's been really good form. Campbell seen another point. Wishaw there's been a good bit of recovery from Wishaw in the past couple of weeks.
I thought they were good against us. The thing that we did against them that you ought not to do against Wishaw is we gave them something to hang on to, and they fought and scraped and for everything. And the wee bit of quality. The boy Kent gave them, we gifted a couple of ridiculous goals, right enough, but they were decent on the day, so no, they're going to, they had a poor run about 4 defeats in a row or something like that, I think, but it looks as if they've got over that, so they'll be feeling pretty good about themselves. We've got to say then, did that result take them out the bottom?
They are now outside the bottom 3. Yeah, they Greenock drop into the bottom 3. Ardere are in there as well. It's quite tight down. It's quite tight down the bottom as well when you actually look at it. And Maybole, they're a team I want to get your thoughts on as well. They're sitting just below levelling points. Actually, using ahead just with a goal and goal difference, but they've got 5 games in hand. They had a 2-0 win over Greenock, Patterson and McCann. They've got a lot of games to make up as well. They are a good side, and they've got some guys like Robert Patterson and Mick McCann who can score goals at this level.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, they've only lost 2 games, I think, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we're the only team to beat them. Then we beat them up at home park, and we beat them down at their place.
That's right.
So, in both games, and in fact, the game down at Maybole they had a lot of the ball, and I think we coped. Once we got ahead, we kind of coped with it quite well. But the park wasn't great, and it was an ugly kind of game, and we managed to grind it out. Up at our place, I thought they were good. They played well. We were good on that day. So, but what they've got to do with the games they've got to play, that might catch up with them. I mean, catch up with them. I'm hoping it does, of course. But they've got good players. They've got good experience. They've got a good coach, so there's a good chance that they'll be absolutely in the mix in the running.
Yeah, absolutely. Other results: Muircut 3, Maryhill 2, and Glasgow Uni 1-2-1 away to Kilsyth Rangers. Big results for Muircut and Glasgow Uni. Obviously, Glasgow Uni sitting in 9th, Muircut in 10th. Just big victories, and it just kind of gives them a bit of breathing space for in the bottom 3.
Well, it's going to be as tight as it is at the top. It's going to be the same at the bottom. You've got to say it. I mean, you look even. We mentioned Maybole against Greenock. Greenock are one of the. when I know they're struggling, but they're one of the best teams we played this season. I mean, in terms of the way they knocked the ball about. I mean, I think they went to Craigmark and won. They've picked up the draw we went through. Really, really good football team, but just maybe a bit young and naive and inexperienced, and some games have slipped away from them. But in the bottom of that league, and you look at Glasgow Uni, that's a good win at Kilsyth. But Glasgow Uni are a really, really well organised team. I mean, Mark's got them, set up really, really well. Frustrate the life out of you playing against them, and it's the sort of team that you just don't want to go behind against because they're disciplined and they've got that organisational thing that maybe a lot of teams at our level don't have. So there's a decent set of results for the teams that picked up wins there. But everybody's going to be scraping and for everything in the running.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just get into the third division. Lanark won 4-2 at home to Girvan. Ardrossan won 3-1 at home to Les Mahagos. The top two get back to winning ways. Vela Clyde keep their run going with a 3-1 win over Kello. Lugar 1, Irvine Vicks 3. 4-4 draw between Carluke and East Kilbride Thistle. Fanart won 3-1 away to Saltcoats. Jamie Adam with a hat-trick. Conor McKenna scored a hat-trick for Carluke as well in their 4-4 draw. Larkhall won 2-0 away to Port Glasgow, and Cowie scored the goal as Bellshill beat Dalry 1-0. Who are the eye-catching results in the third division?
I mean, you've got to look at Ardrossan, I think. Getting back to winning ways, and I think that Ardrossan, Lanark, Vela Clyde are strong teams. I mean, one of the things, Scott, I was really pleased about at the end of last season is that we managed to get into the conference position to take us into the second division, because I knew there'd be teams like that were going to be in a league and it would be really hard to get out of. It'd be competitive and it'd be hard to get out of. So that was a relief, that we were getting into that league and didn't have to deal with that kind of thing, because there's good players in all those teams, and they're always. We played Port Glasgow early in the season in the cup, and Port Glasgow were going through a wee sticky spell, but against us, I don't know what it was, but we struggled. They were good, and it took a last minute winner for us to get through the cup, and they were struggling at the time. So, but that's a tough league to get out of. I think the teams at the top are, are in good positions right now. But I must admit, when I look at that league, I think I'm glad we managed to avoid it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of good teams in it. Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in it as well. As you say, the top four all win. Fanart, big result for them. Carluke 4, East Kilbride Thistle 4. There's a lot of games again. Both teams. The only team that didn't score that this weekend were Dalry. So it shows you every team's got goals in it. Fourth division. Let's go through that. Kilsyth Athletic 2, Thorn Athletic 2. Rossvale Academy 0, West Park 3, Eglinton 1, 3 Rovers 6, Glenvale 6, Campbelltown 0, and Harmony Road 2, St Peters 5. Kilsyth have only dropped 4 points this season, and all 4 points have been against Thorn Athletic. And what makes this quite a surreal result was Kilsyth are 2-0 up. Roger scored a double for Thorn Athletic as well to bring them back into it. Thorn were down to 10 men. Some result for Thorn.
Aye. Well, I mean, they've been quite impressive in the first season. I've got to say, that division I don't know too much about. I don't know too much about, but I don't think we played Glenvale in a cup earlier in the season. They made it tough for us, but that'll be an interesting one to see. Who comes out of that. But a fair bit of travelling in that for Campbelltown.
Yeah, absolutely. Campbelltown. One thing as well. Obviously, West Park. It means West Park have 3 games in hand on Kilsyth, but they're 8 points behind, and they play each other, I believe, next Saturday. That is a massive game. Threave obviously won 6-1 away to Eglinton. One team I was noticing as well, Glenvale have picked up a wee bit. They seem to have improved quite a wee bit. Obviously, there's a couple of new guys went in there as well that I don't know if it's public who's went in, but they're certainly a team to keep an eye on, because a lot of good players getting in there as well, and I think they will be a team to watch. Again, this division, they will just be, again, Kilsyth, West Park, Threave, we talk about it all the time. The teams, this is their chance. There's only a few games left to get the promotion hopes in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know who. I mean, but see, not having seen any of the teams, Scott, it's difficult to to say too much about them. But
there's only 22 games in the season, so the way Kilsyth have 2 games left, they're promoted. St Peters are in 18th, Revon 17. Again, it's quite tight, particularly obviously West Park. I think they only need a couple of points to get promoted. I would say it's between the top four. Kilsyth have obviously got one of the places, and again, it's just that Threave and St Peters, I would say, for the third place. And it's just going to be really interesting to see how this league goes. But it's good to see like the West, for example, these new teams coming in. It's good to see them kind of getting their mark, and obviously we're going to see a new team joining next season.
I think the West of Scotland League is, for our level of football, kind of post junior through the year, has been absolutely fantastic. It really has. It's been a great thing. It's been a great thing seeing, you know, teams that were previously amateur or youth clubs, you know, having a senior team and building it. It is only good for the game right across the board. And, you know, while you're looking at some of these names that are new names to folk that have maybe been about the junior football scene for a while, in a few years, these guys are going to be having teams in the Premier. They're going to have teams in the first. That's the way it's going to be, and that is so healthy for the game. And if we can get a situation where the pyramid system actually works like a proper pyramid, when, you know, teams from the West are involved in playoffs and there's more promotion and relegation between the playoff regions and the Lowland League, then I think we've got a really good thing going. I've got to say it's just been an injection of energy into our whole level of football at this, in this side of the country, that it's been magic. I love it, and seeing new names and, you know, new teams popping up and new coaches and managers, guys that have, you know, maybe been coaching youth teams, showing their credentials, you know, and how good they can be when they're managing senior teams and coaching senior teams. It's all good. It's only good for the game, I've got to say. So you know, the more teams that can join, the more serious teams that can join and want to go about their business properly, then the better, as far as I can see.
Yeah, absolutely, couldn't agree more. Just a couple of games coming up for Yoker, I want to get your thoughts on. Obviously, big game on Saturday. Away to St Anthony's, play Renfrew the weekend after. Games against Wishaw, Ardee away. Again, it's going to be an interesting end to the season. What's the kind of hopes and expectations going forward?
I mean, it is the biggest football cliche in the world is the next game, and one game at a time and all that. But I think because we have had an inconsistent first half of the season, we have got not much room for manoeuvre in terms of, you know, dropping points. So I've got the guys Saturday against St Anthony's. There's no such thing as a must win until things are mathematically certain. It's not so much that, but there are certain games that are head to heads that we've got that we have to win. We have to, you know, not lose. We have to, you know, those sort of things have to happen. And so St Anthony's is one of those games. They're run about us in the league. If we lose to St Anthony's, then try to overcome them is going to be, you know, really, really difficult. So it's a huge game for us. If we get that out the road and it's successful for us, we pick up the points, then it sets up an absolute belter against Renfrew for us. I mean, it really does. But again, we just can't look beyond Saturday. All I'm worried about this week is that we picked up a couple of knocks. Hopefully, you know, guys were in seeing the physio tonight, not training tonight. You know, hopefully getting them back to training Wednesday, and hopefully I can go again with an unchanged team for Saturday because we had done so well. That said, the guys that came off the bench against Perthshire were terrific for us last Friday night, so we'll just deal with that if we have to. But it is simply, you know, just looking at Saturday. What I would say to the guys though is that the win last week just kept the wee possibility open that if we do go in a run, then we could maybe, you know, if things happen elsewhere, we could get in there. So while that possibility is still there, then we've got to, you know, have an edge to what we do. We've got to know that there could be a greater reward than consolidation or whatever there could be. But we've got to go for it. And with that in mind, that if, you know, it would be horrible to slip up in a game and then find out that, you know, a couple other teams have slipped up as well, and we've not been able to capitalise. So we just have to be at it each game and see where it goes. Unfortunately, we're out all the cups because Cup runs are just magic. But if you're looking at it as a positive, we've got the league to concentrate on. We've got 10 games or something, and we just need to try and focus on them and have that edge and have that that idea that there's a potential challenge for promotion if things go our way in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, Gordon. We're wishing you all the best for the season ahead. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on. Thank you very much.
No bother, Scott, and thanks for asking us on, and good work you do, just highlighting this level of football. I've got to say it's good. All the guys talk about their player of the week and all that and fall out with each other. If one gets a mention and the other doesn't, so they're all looking for that and voting for the opponents just to do their mates a win. Well, that's just a bit of tongue in cheek when they say that. But no, it's great. It's great what you do, mate. So I keep up with good work.
Thanks, Gordon. I appreciate that. Thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media for consistent West of Scotland Football League coverage. And as always, follow our YouTube and podcast channels. And we'll be back next week with a new show. Thanks very much, folks. We'll see you soon. Cheers.